A couple of years ago, there was an enormous amount of anti-gay hostility in hip-hop and rap. It was in lot of lyrics, lots of major stars were doing all sorts, casting all sorts of aspersions at gay people. Then they had some kind of summit, and all the big stars in the hip-hop and rap business agreed they weren't going to do that anymore, at least not in public. Because somebody figured out that rap and hip-hop is not just music, it's an entire lifestyle. Booze, clothing, sneakers, everything. And this is going worldwide. And they said, listen, these gay people buy those tilted hats as much as anybody, so let's knock it off. We're losing money. Everybody said, okay, we're down with that. But despite all that, the amount of black on gay violence didn't stop. If anything, it's gotten worse. There's an enormous amount of it out there. And I mean, right now in Dallas, there's one neighborhood in Dallas where there's been dozens of black on gay attacks in the last couple of months. Same thing happens with blacks and Hispanics. If you turn on the TV during the Democratic National Convention, you'll hear the president and everybody else. They don't just talk about black people. They often talk about black and brown people as if there's some kind of moral equivalence, as if there's some kind of equivalence of experience, as if there's some kind of equivalence of behavior, when there is not. But even so, the same thing. Every once in a while, if you turn on the TV, you'll see Snoop Dogg and Pitbull, the guy from Miami. They'll be out there doing something together, maybe smoking dope together. Who the hell knows? But, and the politicians do the same thing. The Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus get together, hold hands, sing Kumbaya together. Fine. But on the streets, there's still an enormous amount of black on Hispanic hostility, violence, and murder. Now, I documented this in White Girl Bleed a Lot and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. Lots and lots of stories from lots and lots of cities where the cops are talking about the patterns of violence, especially on payday. It's kind of a perfect storm, right? The Hispanics, they don't want to have any contact with law enforcement. Of course, the robbers don't want to have any. The black criminals don't want any contact with law enforcement, and the reporters, they don't want anything to do with reporting how this black violence, black mob violence, black on Hispanic violence, black on Hispanic murder is wildly out of proportion. So that's a perfect storm. So I was thinking about this perfect storm when I saw a story just the other day, a mom and her daughter. We're going to see that story. But then after I saw the story, I mean, it was kind of, I got so much mail on it. It was, the universe was kind of telling me, hey, people are paying attention to this story. So why don't we do, because of the victims were so moving and so brave as well. I thought, well, why don't we do another wrap-up? I mean, I know I have it in the book, but I really haven't visited. I've done a couple of black on Hispanic violence videos over the last year, but I really haven't done, the survey. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a couple of stories out there. Well, I started looking at the stories, seeing how many they were, and all I could do was hit my head with the palm of my hand and say, like Homer Simpson, Lord help me, I'm just not that bright.
A trip to the store to get a jug of milk turns violent for a Kansas City mother and daughter, roughed up and robbed. That's first on Fox.
It happened late last night near East 16th Street and Oakley Avenue on Kansas City's east side. Fox 4's Katie Banks is live outside police headquarters with an emotional interview you'll see only on 4. Katie?
The victim and her family are Spanish speakers coming here to America from Honduras 12 years ago. Tonight, they share their frightening story with the help of a translator.
Sonia Hernandez and her 16-year-old daughter Jessica are still shaken.
They
had my daughter at point-blank range to kill her. We almost lost our daughter for something so trivial. It's not fair. People work too hard to have that happen to them.
reliving the horror they experienced when walking home from a nearby Quick Trip last night. They had gone to the store to buy a jug of milk, and when they got back to their front porch, were blindsided by two armed robbers.
They grabbed me by my back and grabbed my daughter by her hair. They threw her on the ground and pointed a gun toward her. And when I told them please don't hurt her, they hit me in my lip.
Sonia says as they lay there on the sidewalk, she began to cry.
They told me to shut up, using ugly language, and kept saying,
"Give me money, give me money."
Threatening to shoot her teenage daughter dead if she didn't hand over her remaining cash.
They said if we got up, that they would shoot us as they ran off. That's the most horrible thing I've ever been through, knowing they could have killed her.
A violent robbery that's now left this family feeling unsafe in their own neighborhood, and a plea to their community to come together to catch these criminals.
If you see something, please tell police. We can work with the police to get these bad guys so it doesn't happen again.
Sonia described the robbers as black men wearing dark clothing and carrying a silver pistol. She says they smelled like marijuana, so she thinks they might have been high.
I hate to say this, but sometimes I troll my own page. And whenever I want to troll my own page, all I have to do is go, hey, all you pot smokers that are out there watching this video, you know that virtually every single person you see on these videos is stoned, correct? They don't like that for some reason. Well, next time I troll you guys, oops, I think I just did. Anyway, next time I troll you guys, you can come back at me and say, hey, Colin, you missed 2 stories in 2 weeks. Okay, yeah, you finally caught on to that story of how black people were breaking into a car dealership, stealing the keys and stealing cars by the handfuls. But it took you a long time. That was happening a long time. You missed that story, Colin. So don't expect any props because for getting it late. Okay, fair enough. But now the trolls can say the same thing here. For all the stuff I've done on black and Hispanic violence, I haven't really looked at it that carefully over the last year. Look how much we missed.
Police say the suspects were looking specifically for Latino victims, stealing cash and other items, then fleeing the scene until last night. 2 men are now behind bars after police say they committed several robberies around Indianapolis.
Just pay attention to your surroundings.
Police say the duo, 23-year-old Shaquille Washington and 21-year-old Brian Artis Jr., were targeting Latino victims, stealing cash and other valuables from innocent people, then fleeing the scene.
The language issue could be one of the reasons, too. They may not report them.
Police caught Washington and Artis Jr. just seconds after they robbed a Latino woman who was walking alone around 9 o'clock Friday night near West 38th Street. She wasn't injured, but police did find a handgun, cash, and other valuables when they arrested the men.
It's not Hispanics, it's not just blacks, it's everybody.
Police are looking for a man who has been posing as a security guard and robbing people at apartment complexes in North Austin.
They are investigating 3 cases that happened during the last 2 weeks.
Police say the suspect is a black male between 25 and 30 years old. He's
Need your help tracking down a group of robbers targeting Hispanics. Now take a look at these pictures. Here are some of the suspects police want to identify with your help. Fort Worth reporter Chris Van Horn is live at police headquarters with more on this rash of robberies. Chris?
Deanna, police believe that this group of 4 armed men are connected to at least 11 robberies that have happened in Fort Worth in the last 2 weeks. Now, they say the robberies are happening at random, but all the victims are Hispanic.
Say hello to Jonathan Sanchez Rosales. He lives in Chicago. He was coming home from a job when he ran into these two clowns. They fired a gun at him from across the street. Mr. Rosales threw his hands into the air. The two black guys ran at this guy, who I think is Mexican. Ran at this guy. Told him to stop, get down on the ground. When he did, one of the guys came over with a gun, put a rifle to his head, pulled the trigger.
Crime alert, and police in Fort Worth right now searching for an armed robber who targets Hispanics. And police are connecting him to several robberies in the area. Channel 8's Carla Wade is live in Fort Worth, and Carla, police have released, at the very least, an image of the suspect.
That's right, Alexa. Police say that this man is armed with a .45 caliber handgun, and they believe that he is dangerous. As you mentioned, they say he has been targeting Hispanic men as they are working. Now let's take a look at this surveillance pic. He's between 5'10" and 6 feet tall, weighing between 120 and 150 pounds.
Breaking news concerning a string of murders and robberies in Southwest Houston last year.
Yeah, police just announced 2 arrests in those cases. In fact, here's a look at the long list of crimes police say those 2 men are responsible for. They include robberies and murders on the same night. Our reporter Jeff Ealing live now with the latest on that arrest. Jeff?
Good morning, Tom and Elisa. Houston police say over a 2-month period in 2014, there was a string of robberies in Southwest Houston that left 3 people dead. And now Houston police say the men responsible for those crimes are behind bars. Police say the 25-year-old Sebastian Drayton and 28-year-old Eric Foster are charged with 1 count of murder and may be responsible for as many as 3 murders. Police say the suspects are linked to a crime spree that started with 3 robberies at apartment complexes near South Post Oak back on October 7th of last year. Then a couple of weeks later, police say Daniel Martinez was killed during a robbery on October 31st on South Gessner. 9 days after that, police say 2 people were shot during a robbery on West Belfort, but those 2 people survived their shooting. 2 days after that, Juan Chamorro was gunned down during a robbery in an apartment complex on Skyline Drive. Both suspects are now charged with his murder. Police say the crime spree ever continued. November 28th, there were 2 more robberies on Southwest Houston, and then a day later, a couple of more robberies, and then the murder of Jose Moriera at an apartment complex on Gulfton. Police think that the suspects were going after recent Hispanic immigrants on purpose, and they think that these crimes are not the only ones the suspects committed.
Armed robbers are targeting Latinos in one East Bay city. Often these crimes go unreported, according to police. Crown Force Hazik Marion takes a look at how merchants are teaming up with law enforcement to bridge the gap between police and the victims of crime.
Distracted Latinos with iPhones, backpacks, purses, and jewelry. That is what armed robbers are looking for here along the 23rd Street corridor in Richmond.
There has been some crimes and mostly robberies.
They are targeting the Latino community.
Many people were leaving that meeting tonight and going to a funeral. A subcontractor in his 30s was murdered in Berkeley last weekend. He's the 3rd contractor murdered in 2 months. Many residents believe they are being targeted, and they're crying out for help.
Juan Serrano, who got killed this past weekend, was one of my best. All of my guys are the best. But this is the 3rd one that I lose. The very 3rd one that I lose. These are good men out here.
In 2 months, 3 murders. Contractors for Doreen Benitez. She came tonight to beg the mayor and police to help stop any more lives from being taken.
We need to put money on these officers, that there's more of them protecting people like Juan Serrano.
Those who came told officers workers are being targeted on paydays.
So most of them, every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, they go and cash their checks.
And you're afraid to go cash your check because you're being chased, followed. We need to stand together, and we need to stop saying it's police crime towards black people. It's black on black crime. It's black on Hispanic crime. There's crime out here, and if we don't stop it, it's not going to stop.
out in Minneapolis, a year ago, they ran this story about how black people are targeting Latinos. A couple days ago, they ran another one, the exact same story. And inside that story, they said, oh yeah, a couple months ago, the cops issued another warning for black people targeting Latinos. Of course, they do not say black people in the newspapers. You know, every time we get to a point in this channel where people are saying, man, that's about as bad as it gets, Colin. We come across a story like this, and everything turns out to be a lot worse than what we said it was, what we thought it was. And so now the only thing left is tracking down some of these Hispanics and asking them, what did you guys do to make the black kids so angry?